Thanks so much for tuning in. This will be the May 2025 council briefing update. Start off with a few announcements. Unfortunately, both of them have already passed. I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon. The first one was Macro-D, which was on Wednesday, of course. And then today, Thursday, this morning, we had the police station dedication. Really, really nice event. The station was dedicated to Mr. Sostan and Jerry Arceneaux, no relation to me, for their dedication. Both of them, they were husband and wife who were both police chiefs here in Carencro. I remember Miss Jerry from when I was quite young, but they dedicated many, many years of service to the police station, to the community, to St. Peter's Church, and so it's really great. Their family were there, had some great stories to tell about them, so it's really nice. We start off on the agenda. Slimco. There were two separate items. So the first one is the utility franchise. Every 10 years, I believe, we have to re-update our franchise agreement, which basically allows them to continue to operate in the city of Carencro. Slimco is a great partner, in my opinion. I have Slimco at my house. I have been very, very happy with their customer service, their fees, all the things. And so I think this will pass well. For those of you who keep up, Slimco is one of our providers, and Entergy is the other one. Their utility franchise will be coming up, I believe, in several years, maybe 6 or 8 years, and so we'll address that then. The other one is the streetlight agreements. This is a fairly standard agreement as well for Slimco to provide street lights to our community. These should both pass Monday at the meeting. They are standard documents. I have looked through them. They are pretty hefty contracts, but they are what all municipalities get. And so nothing jumped out at me when I read through them initially as concerning. The next item was a big one for me. It's something that I believe all the council members have worked on in some form or fashion. Police department pay increase. I've worked with Chief Anderson and his administrative staff for several months on this, again, as has the other council members. This happens every however many years. It may happen, 3, 5, 10, where pay becomes competitive in the other municipalities and in the area. And so what we see is, one municipality will go up a few $1,000s starting pay, and it'll kind of do that for a year or two until things settle out, and then we'll go for several years, and then it'll kind of start again. So just kind of a quick update. Currently, the city of Carencro's police officers start at $40,000 per year. That is their salary. Of course, it does not take into account retirement, insurance, those sorts of things. It's their base salary. To give you an idea, we're at 40. I believe Scott's at 43. Bruce are around 45 or so. Youngsville at 45. Lafayette PD at 47. The sheriff's office at 48. Don't quote me, but I believe those to be the numbers. So we are the lowest. The problem is twofold. First, because they're starting so low, even as we give raises when we can, they're still not keeping up with the other municipalities. And then when we have an opening, we're having a lot of trouble getting quality applicants because they can go to another agency for up to $8,000 more a year. And so Chief Anderson has a twofold plan to address this. One of those is increase the starting pay to $46,000. That puts us roughly above the other small municipalities, but still below the sheriff's office and Lafayette PD. And I think that's a fair place to be. I don't think we can compete with the sheriff's office or Lafayette PD. We have to win in other areas. Smaller department, great leadership, hopefully, which we have with Chief Anderson for sure currently. And those kinds of things. We can't compete with the sheriff's office and the type of programs they offer, whether that's SWAT or narcotics or surveillance or whatever it is they have. And we're going to have trouble competing on pay. So again, we need to do other things. So step one is increase the starting pay, which is really what this is about. I believe the council is fully on board. I think we're going to pass it on Monday. So the first part of that is where are we going to get the money? Well, part of the money for the increase is Chief has had so many open positions. He's lost, I believe, 13 officers in the last 18 months, which is really, really high. And it costs us a small fortune to train them, get them uniforms, all the things. Um, but because of those openings, his line item for salaries is well below budget. So he has some room there, but he will need an additional 55,000. Fortunately, I believe the place that we need to get this is in the sales tax revenue. It is a little bit higher than anticipated, and I think we're able to pull there from there to do this. His second part of the plan is a pay scale increase. So it basically, based off of your rank and years of service, there's a chart that we have that anybody can plug in those facts and figure out what their pay rate is. I believe we are going to get there. I will talk more about it in the future. We're not ready to do it now because I believe, and some of the council believes, the best way to do it is we need to have this for all employees to be fair across the board, to ensure that we're not just giving police department raises or just giving these people raises. And it's also a way to be standardized. It allows us, when the mayor or the chief of police or whomever talks to an applicant, we can say, this is what we hire people at with your years of experience into this position. This is where you can expect to be next year, the year after, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And this is, as you move up, how you can expect to get raises. It's a very transparent way. It's also a way for the council and the public to have some transparency and some ability to know how many people do we have in what positions and what are they making, so that it's equitable for everyone. So a lot more discussion on that. Of course, all these things come with a price tag, which is one of the things we have to discuss. But I'm a firm believer that we have to put people first. When we put our employees first, we get more done. Without those people, we can't dig the ditches and fill the potholes and cut the grass and do those things. We have to have the people. They have to be engaged. They have to be willing to come. We have to have quality applicants. And I believe this is part of that. So more to come, but I am fairly certain the police department will get a pay increase on Monday, which is a starting pay of $46,000, and then the other employees will get the appropriate increases accordingly. Again, it's about $55,000 to finish out the year, and I think it's money well spent. The next item that you see there is the sewer rate study. For those of you who've been listening for a while, we had a similar thing with the water. This is why the water rates went up so much a year or two ago. This appears to be the standard now for state and federal grants. Every time we get state or federal dollars, there is something attached to it that requires us to do something, whether it's an ordinance that we have to pass or a rate study. And so we have applied for a $7.5 million grant for the sewer plant. Again, this is a $30, $40, $50 million project that we're hoping to bid out in a month or two, a couple of months. But and that is secured by a tax that was passed, I believe, in 2018 before I was on the council. But likely we still don't have enough there, and so this grant's to help. However, if we accept the grant, we must do a sewer rate study. And what that means is they're going to look at all of our costs associated with sewer, all of our rate income that we get from customers, and they will tell us if we need to go up on rates. And if they tell us we need to, we have very, very little, if any, ability to argue or to try to change that. If we want the money and we don't want to pay it back, we have to impose those fees. So I'm hesitant because I think nobody knows our system and our people better than our local government, but we need the state dollars, and to get them, this is a stipulation. So, we'll see what happens, but I don't think we have a choice here in accepting these dollars. The next item is the sidewalk project. I did get a few questions about why it was being removed from the agenda. We discussed it at the meeting. The short version is, there are so many numbers that are moving in the budget. Initially, when this came about, we thought that the number entered into the budget was incorrect. The project is not over budget. However, what was entered into our budget was incorrect. After looking at it some more, closing out the numbers, getting the audit done, it appears that all the numbers have worked out and we do not need to amend the budget in any way. So that's good news. That means all the bottom lines are staying the same, and so we can feel good about that. Um, you may ask, well, can that money not be used for the police department pay raise? No, not at all. The utility fund, which does water, sewer, those kind of things, have their own fund, proprietary fund, completely separate from the general fund, which is our sales tax revenue. Those monies cannot be commingled. And so, yes, in some sense, we save some money here because we're not having to amend the budget, but that's in a different fund. So the next thing was sewer at Pelican Park. The mayor presented the council with a few options. It appears there were some buildings, a building added to Pelican Park to use for office space, a Butler building. And previously there was some discussion about, digging sewer and adding sewer. Well, it appears that that is going to cost $210,000 to get sewer there. The only other option my understanding is a sewer plant type place that would be considerably cheaper, but only could be used for that building and does not give us longer term opportunities, and it does not give us access to that north 40 acres there. We have the concession stand being rebuilt, and so I was hesitant initially. However, this would be not a park budget project, but a utility fund project because it's an extension of the sewer plant. Considering that, maybe I am on board. I certainly need more information about this. I need to know where we're tying in. I'd like to know a little bit more about why are we just finding out about this now. And then the other issue is, we have sewer in the middle of the park, but we don't have enough drop. We don't have enough distance, essentially top to bottom, to run there. So I'm hesitant here. I need to know a little bit more about future plans for the North 40 acres, and before we spend $200,000 on sewer for right now, one building. We'll see how it goes. The next one I'm very, very excited about. This is SS4A, Safe Streets for All application. This is federal money for the Dogleg and Gloria Switch. So if you're coming off of I-49, heading west, when the road first curves to the right and then back left, the long-term plan, I've been seeing designs about this for many, many years. Mr. Lynn Guidry had showed me a plan years and years back, and I think it's part of a much larger traffic plan that I'm happy to share with people. It's a little too detailed to go into in this video, but essentially, where this portion of it, where that Gloria Switch makes that first right, you would continue straight. Gloria Switch would pass through some open pastures and make a gentle curve back to the right and end up with a roundabout at Walter Drive. So there would be a roundabout at that first dogleg to the right, and then another roundabout at Walter and University. Again, part of a much bigger plan. This isn't happening next week, next year, maybe not even 4 or 5 years. But this is the initial application to get some funding for this. Carencro would have a 20% match to do this. We would likely go to the state to get some of that money, but we're not even at that step yet. But this is the start. The next one on the list is condemnation at 129 East Gloria Switch. This is the gas station across the street from Lowe's. Anybody who's passed, the building's deplorable. At a lot of our Louisiana Municipal Association meetings, I have sat in on sessions about gas tanks that are in the ground and the problems with them. And so I'm a little hesitant here. I do agree that the building needs to be condemned. My only concern is I know there are tanks in the ground there, and so I don't want to become responsible for them. The cost of those can be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get them safely out and soil samples and all those things. So yes, I want to condemn the building. No, not at the cost of having to take over the gas tanks there. And so it's kind of a legal question, and it's a big, important legal question. I think before we move forward, we need to make sure we are not going to take control of that. The next one is Cody and Better Pumps. So those of you, again, who've been following for some time, Cody Construction is the construction company working on our lift stations. They're incredibly behind. They are still working. They are in liquidated damages, meaning we are subtracting the money that we owe them. We always hold money back. Of course, we don't pay people up front. We pay them as the projects progress in case this happens. And so the total dollar amount we owe them is going down and down and down because we're essentially fining them or subtracting what we owe them every day that the project is not done because they're past schedule. Well, part of the problem is as they are working on these lift stations, we need bypass pumps to do what those pumps were previously doing. Those cost upwards of $70,000 this year. Cody cannot pay that bill. And if the city of Carencro does not pay that bill, the sewer will back up into people's homes. We don't have much of a choice. Mayor Clavier and her administrative team have met with Cody and everybody's attorneys. Everybody is still believing we're going to move forward and get this done. And so the plan is likely that the pumps will be paid by the city of Carencro and subtracted from what we owe Cody, which is fine. My only ask to them was, let's make sure that we don't go upside down, meaning we don't end this project where they owe us money. Now, they are a bonded company, and so they essentially have insurance for these kind of things. But to go after their bonds would be an incredibly lengthy legal process, which nobody wants to do. So my understanding is even if we pay for these pumps, that we still will have money that we owe them. It can be subtracted from that. So we should be okay. We're all just hopeful that this project ends as soon as possible. Next, we got an update about walk-ons, particularly the turn lane there. We've talked about this before. It's looking like the turn lane is going to cost more like $400,000 than the initial $200,000, and it has to do with some drainage under the road. I had a pretty lengthy discussion with the city engineer today, Andy Sellers, about this. He is still gathering data. We shall see. The other item, there was one other thing. The mayor added, it's not on the agenda, she added, and it was related to the ARPA funds. This is the American Rescue Plan. It was COVID money. The council that I was on had previously agreed to use that money for a water project. Well, the federal rules that came out, and this was constantly changing. The money came out, was available before even the rules were out. And so apparently you could not use that money in conjunction with other state money. So we had gotten some state money for the water project, and then we used some ARPA money. That was not allowed. So what we need to do is go back, and my understanding is this is primarily on paper. It's an accounting function. They're going to move the money that was used from ARPA, that was used on the water project, to pay salaries, and they're going to move the salary money to the water project. I believe it's just moving of numbers, as I understand it. There's no change in costs. We've already spent the ARPA money. There's nothing more that we're spending, but we need to do a single audit report to move how that money was spent. I don't really see a major issue with it. I haven't seen any documents. I will read those once we get them, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to wrap up with KSI. We had some KSI board members and concerned citizens come up and talk about KSI. We've been talking about KSI for many months. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm going to leave it with this. My understanding is that, or my impression of the discussion, was that Mayor Clavier and Ms. Burt Hebert, who is the president of KSI, had a verbal agreement in the meeting to consider KSI essentially being dissolved as far as just the nonprofit part, and those volunteers and those kids and those people coming under the city of Carencro for a youth sports league. Again, everybody agrees we need a youth sports league for the kids. The question is, how do we do it with the paperwork that's required? If you're interested in KSI or you have not been listening, I have multiple emails that I can send out explaining why we're where we're at, how did we get here, what do we need, why has KSI not turned it in. It's a very lengthy discussion I'm happy to have with anyone, but I think where we're at now is trying to figure out if KSI can be incorporated into Carencro, their nonprofit would dissolve and it would all be run through the city. I think it's a good option. I think it allows us to continue the programs at the same or even lower cost to the kids, which is what everybody's goal is. So, but we need everybody's buy-in. We need everybody on the same page to make this happen. So more to come on that. Thank you so much for listening.